Money Talks features market makers and leaders within the world of rare collectibles, currency, alternative assets, finance, and everything in between. Join the conversation and take a deep dive into the mind of some of the world's most impactful guests to share their strategies and lessons to dominate their respective fields. Hosted by legendary sports executive, entrepreneur, and investor, David Meltzer. This is Money Talks, presented by Stack's Bowers Galleries. We have some amazing guests coming up, but first, let me introduce you to our host, David Meltzer. David Meltzer grew up poor with a dream of buying his mom a house and a car. Within 9 months of graduating law school, David became a millionaire and achieved that dream. After becoming a multi-millionaire, he then lost over $100 million and built it back to run the most notable sports agency in the world. Considered one of the top esports entrepreneurs and investors, David is also a 3-time international best-selling author, a top 100 business coach, and the host of the Top Entrepreneur Podcast, The Playbook. His life's mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. This simple yet powerful mission has led him on an incredible journey to provide one thing: value. Coming up on this episode of Money Talks, presented by Stack's Bowers Galleries, David Kohler and Rick Harrison. Founded in 1979 by David Kohler, SPC Auctions record speaks for itself, as the company has realized record auction and private sale prices for themselves. The company's consistency and industry knowledge have helped to maintain SCP Auctions' stellar reputation as a dominant figure in the sports memorabilia world.
Welcome to Money Talks, and I'm David Meltzer, here with another David. That's David Kohler. He is the CEO president of SCP Auctions and an extraordinary collector himself. David, welcome to Money Talks.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on here today, and looking forward to this conversation. This should be pretty cool.
Well, 2 of my favorite things in the world: sports and entertainment, plus money. And speaking of which, collectibles have really come a long way since you were an 18-year-old flinging baseball cards around, I think, as many of the leaders in this space were. They were just simply kid collectors that figure out the nuance of the business. What were some of the things, as you grew up in Inglewood, one of the heartbeats of sports, believe it or not? A lot of people may or may not know the amount of huge historical sporting events that have occurred right there in Inglewood, and now we've reinvented it with my other office at SoFi Stadium. What were some of the characteristics you saw as a teenager trading cards that are still applicable today in the business of collectibles?
Yeah, well, the infancy was really in the mid-'70s. Obviously, so many people collecting baseball cards, sports cards. Later, the whole memorabilia market took off with game-worn items and autographs and game-use things, all those. And it's been quite a ride. It all started with baseball cards, and it's just amazing as structure became to the market. Like, you know, the first price guide was in 1979, the Beckett price guide. That was a seminal moment for us. I was a teenager, just buying and selling cards, driving all over, you know, Southern California, and kind of ran out of money after a while. I'm like, well, I'll just keep, you know, these cards for 20, 30 years and probably make some money later. But eventually, obviously, I ran out of money. So I was like, maybe I should start selling these. And they had, you know, back there was card shows. So we'd go to those conventions, start buying and selling, and that's really where this all started. But the market grew and grew over the years, and people love sports, and it's very dynamic. And the more structure that came in the market, and of course, the online part of all this, where people have worldwide access, that's where the sports memorabilia boom has really happened.
And I've been blessed to be around some of the great collectors in the world like yourself. And one of the lessons that I've learned is, regardless of the value of the collectible or collection, which we'll get into the variants of how that works, it's still people buying on emotion for logical reasons. When I ran the most notable sports agency in the world, I remember Lee Steinberg asking me, "What business are we in, Dave?" And I was like, "We're sports agents." He goes, "Nope, we're in the irrationality of middle-aged men." And that's where it was at way back then. Yeah. Now it's everyone, not just middle-aged men. But how much still today is the emotional side of it comparatively to the quality of the collection, the veracity of the collection, and other variables that may be involved? How much is it just strictly that irrationality of people and their love for what they're buying or selling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly the emotions there, and people, they love their teams, they love their players, whatever sport if it's just the Yankees or the Lakers or whatever it is. And once they can kind of find out how to go about doing it, what you can buy, what you can collect, obviously, run into the right people, dealers, auction firms that can help you kind of show you the path, then they really become very passionate about it. And in time, depending on how much dollars they have, in 5 or 10 years later, they can really build a special collection that they can enjoy. And it's amazing how once you do that, how a lot of these things become more valuable later. You're not really buying these things to sell them next week or sell them next month, but if you buy quality and the right things, and along the way you have fun with it, and down line 5, 10, 15 years later, a lot of these things are worth a lot more, and it just makes it all go.
And it keeps on going. Two of the critical business issues within the collectibles, especially sports collectibles side of it, have always been the certification of what you're presenting. Now, that has been enhanced greatly over the years. It was more verifying a signature more than actually an item.
Yeah.
Now you have both the item and the signature, and then a variable as well as the quality or rating of that. How has that evolved since the 70s? We're looking at almost 50 years. And now with AI and all types of technology, how important are those three aspects of collecting today?
I mean, it's vital. That's obviously why our business has grown a lot, is the authentication firms are so good at what they do. And it brings all that confidence in the market. So when we're selling something direct, my firm SCP Auctions, or auctioning it off, we know that this is a signed Babe Ruth ball with all the all the certs behind it, by the foremost third parties, or graded cards. Those are graded on a scale of 1 to 10. There's about 3 firms in the country that are foremost that grade those, and when we sell those, it's they can go for $1 million, 50 grand, or might be only $100, but they're in these special holders that are sonically sealed, and people, when they're buying these things, they know later whatever they bought, that's what it is. It probably is going to be worth a lot more later. It may not, but we know that if you bought a Babe Ruth signed ball at whatever condition it's in, when you want to sell it later down the line, or you give it to your kids or family, if you ever want to sell it again, it's still, we know that is a certified Babe Ruth ball, and that's what makes this all go.
Now, beyond being one of the leaders in the auction space and the broker space, you also are a leader as a collector, and that really makes a difference. I know from all the great athletes and celebrities that I've worked with, and they all know your name and speak so highly of you because you know actually what it's like. You've evaluated, you have probably the most valuable and biggest Lakers collection in the world,
Yes.
and you're a collector yourself. What do you look for as a collector when you're looking for something that may have future value, or something that, just like housing, is a flip? What are the things that you're looking at today?
Well, yeah, I mean, so on the side, growing up and born in Los Angeles, obviously, and growing up in Orange County and that, I was a huge Laker fan. I loved playing basketball, and Jerry West was my hero when I was young. And then we got in the 1980s, and the Showtime Lakers winning 5 out of 10 championships. Magic Johnson I've become, was very fond of, and one of my favorite players. And later got to know both of these guys and done business with them, actually, which is unbelievable. But on the side, I said, hey, it'd be great to build a Laker collection, even going back to where it started in Minneapolis, where the franchise started, and then the Lakers came to LA in 1960. I started building that collection on the side, just like what we do for other collectors, whether they're collecting high-end baseball cards or game-used bats or Super Bowl rings, World Series rings, whatever their categories they love to build. Well, I was doing that in my early 20s, building this Laker collection, not thinking it was going to grow to the level
Take
it
over
did.
your house like it has.
Yeah, exactly.
He has an entire wing of his house towards the Lakers. If you ever want to see, it's an amazing thing. He's kicked out his kids just so he could have Lakers stuff.
Yeah, they call it the Laker Shrine now.
Right, Laker Shrine.
Yeah, it is a museum. It is all of the most important artifacts of the Lakers' history. All their game-worn jerseys, trophies, awards, shoes, balls, probably the biggest Kobe Bryant collections within that collection. So yeah, I've done that on the side and built this great collection. And so it does help me when I show clients or people that want to bid in our auctions, hey, this is what you can do and what you might love. Maybe you love the Chicago Bulls, or it might be the LA Dodgers, or your favorite players. You love Babe Ruth. We can help you build a great Babe Ruth collection in time. It takes time because certain opportunities become available. You know, some of these artifacts, they're scarce, so something might pop up today for sale that we may not see for another 5 years. But it's helped me show them a path of what they can do in time, depending whatever your resources are. And so I've had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, one of the other things that differentiates you in the market as a leader has been your personal relationships. And a lot of people, I think, with all the technology, with the size, scope, and scale of the audience that you and I could have never imagined, you know, the market itself, both buying and selling, is so big and so accessible. But it still comes down to personal relationships. People come to me and my athletes, Hall of Famers, and say, hey, you know, it's about that time. I'd like to get rid of, you know, this ball or this collection. Do you know who can I trust?
Yes.
And I know that as far as SCP auctions go, that it's the most trustworthy, and that's why it's a leader, because so many people know that you're going to take care of the whole business situation
100%.
from start to finish.
Yes.
That doesn't come overnight, those relationships. You talk about 38 years. You know, what are some of the things, and I think it's a great lesson for entrepreneurs, not only in collectibles, but all over, how do you develop a relationship where someone trusts you with sometimes their most valuable possessions?
I mean, again, it's all about reputation, how you do business every day. Word gets out, obviously, and people connect with you. Sometimes it might be just other people that are in the business that know that you're at a high level, and so they reach out to you because they may have a connection of somebody that wants to sell something or or buy something within the sports memorabilia world. We've done over 50 Hall of Famer collections for the athletes over the years. And some of them have been estates, meaning we're doing it for the family because the athlete passed away. But a lot of times we're dealing right with the athlete that's retired. He has all his memorabilia. And a lot of that it's all relationships. So, you know, I'm a huge Lakers fan, but we've handled most of the Boston Celtics memorabilia collections. Bob Cousy, John Havlicek, the Auerbach family, JoJo White. I mean, we've done them all, and someone would say, wait a second, you guys are California-based, you're huge Lakers, why would any of the Celtics deal with you? Well, it's relationships. We did a great job with Bob Cousy's collection 25 years ago, and then he tells John Havlicek, and John Havlicek tells the Auerbach family, and so on. So it doesn't come down to them, well, you like the Lakers, so we're not going to deal with you, right? No,
Right.
It's like you do a great job of what you do, you're trustworthy, you get it done, you market it right, you get great prices for the memorabilia, and you know, I like dealing with you, and that's what business is all about.
Last question real quick, because out of curiosity and emotion, we don't always know what something's worth. And what I love about auctions is some things you think are going to bring it, don't bring it, but there's other things that catch fire, especially at the end. I know you've had this situation in multiple times. What was one of your favorite stories about something that you may not have thought was that valuable, that maybe even shocked you beyond what you thought was possible?
I would say there's quite a few, but one was very interesting is everybody knows what the Hannes Wagner, the most valuable card in the world. There's about 60 or 70 of those known in all conditions. We actually sold the finest one, which is a PSA 8. We sold that probably 15 or 20 years ago to the owner of the Diamondbacks baseball team. It's public knowledge, and sold for $2.8 million. Back then, it's probably worth $40 million today, and not for sale. Maybe $50 million, but we won't get ahead of ourselves. But one of the really interesting stories is we had someone contact us, and they had basically a half a Hannes Wagner, and it was real. It was torn in basically half. It was in a PSA holder, graded genuine, right? Didn't even get a 1 through 10, but And I was like, wow, that actually is going to be interesting. We called it, it's Hannes Wagner, so we coined it half a Hannes.
Half a Hannes, nice.
And
you put a poke on it says half a Hannes, that's good.
And actually my son Dylan, he's in the business. He actually got it from somebody on the East Coast, that a family, a person that passed away and had bought it like 30, 35 years ago, and the family owned it. Well, they contacted us. And I said, wow, that thing's probably going to bring, that thing might bring $100,000.
Wow.
It's only a half a Hannes, but it's real. And we auctioned it off for the family, and I think it brought like $460,000.
Wow, for a half of a card.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get. That's where money talks. And I'm David Meltzer. That's why I bring people like David Kohler on, because not only is he one of the great auction houses, SCP auctions for all type of collectibles, but him himself has one of the greatest collections, at least that I'm emotionally attached to, being a Lakers fan as well. I always love to visit the shrine of the Lakers. I just worry about you as you get 10 years older and older. Someday the whole house will just be a museum. You're gonna have to move over by me down the street where you have a room to sleep. But the incredible David Kohler here with me. I'm David Meltzer with Money Talks. Right back at you.
I'm excited to hear from our next guest, Rick Harrison. Richard Kevin Harrison is an American businessman, reality television personality, and owner of the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, which is featured on the history series Pawn Stars. Harrison and his father, Richard Benjamin Harrison, opened the shop in 1989. By 2006, the shop had developed a reputation for carrying special sports items with unique histories.
Welcome to Money Talks with David Meltzer. And talking money, you can't talk money without knowing this guy. If you haven't seen him on TV, then you're not watching TV. He is amazing. Rick Harrison, welcome to Money Talks.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you. Now, one thing you may not know is we grew up together. I'm a San Diego kid. I'm a Patrick Henry kid, a Pershing Middle School, and I think you went to Taft, which was right around the corner there. And I think that's where your first initiation into the sale and understanding of goods became. And so I thought maybe we'd take you back to San Diego. What was your business when you were young, and had it at all put an influence on what you do today?
Well, I mean, when I was young, my dad was career military, really old school. And I was 12 years old. I explained that I was too old to get allowance, and he used to buy condemned apartment complexes. And so when my friends were watching Saturday morning cartoons, my dad was get your nail bags, get in the truck at 5:30 in the morning, every week.
And to that, right, that discipline, I always say my superpower is consistency. And starting at a young age, I grew up with 6 kids, so single mom, her thing was, I'm gonna wake my kids up every day at 5 a.m. because I want them too tired to cause any trouble when the nighttime comes. And it worked, because my siblings are outstanding individuals. But there's a different mindset when it comes to, as you are the star of Pawn Stars, in understanding negotiation. And I always take some of my salespeople, I take them 2 places when I want to see if they have a natural ability to sell. I take them to a pawn shop, and I allow them to negotiate to buy and sell. And then I'll also take them to a club at night and see who can walk out with the prettiest girl, and then even see if he can keep her. Those are 2 qualities for sports agency early in my career in salespeople. But for you, where did that great negotiation skill, I know you've written books about it, really come from and develop?
I mean, ever since I was a kid. I remember being 14 years old, and my brother had a fake ID, and I knew if I could find spoons out the swap meet that said sterling silver on them, I could get $5 for them at the pawn shop. Buying and selling stuff my whole life, and I just quickly realized if the deal's not right, the deal's not right. The number one rule to negotiating: be willing to walk away.
Yeah.
And so many people, they got to get the deal done. They got to get the deal done. If the deal's not right, just walk away. And people ask me all the time, what's that one deal that got away from you that you regret? I'm going, none of them. The deal wasn't right at the time, so I walked away.
And I love the fact that you add "at the time," because you and I both know when we've walked away from deals, or others have walked away from deals, that doesn't mean the deal's dead. That there may be another time that all the criteria line up, that the deal may be good now and it's at a same or lower price. Is timing a big factor in that type of negotiation?
Well, it is with everything. whoever thought Pokemon cards would go through the ceiling?
Right.
And I'm pretty convinced right now that they're not going to stay there. That's a massive bubble. But markets change all the time. I mean, there used to be a big market for VCRs.
That's a great point. And yet now, beyond the actual negotiation, buying and selling, there's an added component of media. And so now there's almost an entertainment aspect of what you do. Has your negotiation changed at all because you're on TV?
No, not really. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I mean, unlike most of the other shows that were right around pawn shops and doing what I do, I really do buy and sell this stuff. And if the deal's not right, the deal's not right. I'm just going to walk away from it, whether it's a $20 deal or $100,000 deal. It's still a business I have to run. I got very large payroll and everything else I got to make every month, and but the TV thing is still fun though, so that's why I do it.
That's why I'm sitting here with you, so we're both having fun, and thank goodness you think it's fun, or I don't think we could have got you on the show. So that's even a double benefit for both of us. Now, I've been around negotiation. I don't know if you know this, but I ran the most notable sports agency in the world, and I've been in some pretty big negotiations. And whether it's a multi-billion-dollar stadium deal or selling a watch to a pawn shop, there's two things that I've learned that are essential that most people don't look at. And when I watch you on TV, I was like, here's a guy that gets it. And I'm going to start with the first thing that most people don't think about before they go into a negotiation, and that's perceived value. I find it remarkable that people will go into a buying and selling opportunity without knowing an asking price or a perceived value. What are some of the tips that you can give us about getting a perceived value before you start the negotiation, and how important is it to have that before you start a negotiation?
Well, I mean, everyone's got their that information box they call around. It's called your phone. It's called the internet. I mean, you can do a little research on that. I mean, a lot of things I deal with are pretty rare and obscure, so it's difficult to figure out what they're worth. But knowledge is king. It always has been for 4,000 years. Guy who knows the most, in the end is going to have the most money, the most, and everything. So try and do some research on it. A lot of times it's very, very difficult. I mean, it happens all the time. I filmed with a guy the other day. He had an Abraham Lincoln letter in his family for 3 generations. And I'm going well, 3 generations, someone with a printing press probably printed out a lot of these.
Right. You got to guess. The other thing that I'm even more surprised than perceived value is how few people know their bottom line before the negotiation. And you talked about being able to walk away. You're not able to walk away unless you know your bottom line going into a negotiation. How important is that bottom line? And do you know it every time before you get into that negotiation?
No, that's just it. I mean, literally, before, the morning before I film, they throw me a few pieces of paper with a small picture of it on there, and then they got some intern in New York or whatever did a bio on it, and everything is completely wrong. And so I don't know so I walk in, I don't know I got to figure everything out on the spot usually. Sometimes if it's something really valuable and obscure, I might tell them turn the cameras off. It's going to take me a little while to figure this out. But in general, that's just me, and it's the fuzzy math I use in my head because every deal is different. I mean, I can buy a gold coin off you, I can make 1% real quick. I mean, because I can literally, it's gold. I pick up the phone, it's sold in 30 seconds. But it's a piece of art, you know what I mean? And it's it might sit on the wall 2 or 3 years. I mean, there's going to be a much different profit margin, and that's, I mean, if it's art, I think it's probably going to sit around for a while. I'm going to double my money in the next year or 2, or otherwise I'm not even going to touch it.
Beyond that, understanding that at a pawn shop, you have to have a wide variance of understanding. So I assume that if you don't understand something fully, do you walk away from the deal, or do you just go for a huge timing and risk tolerance analysis and go ahead and take a chance because you'll...
Sometimes...
Go ahead.
Sometimes they take a little risk. I mean, but always remember, I've always told my kids, never be the smartest person in the room. Hang out with people smarter than you. And if you don't, always be willing to ask questions in your life. Okay, even in front of I deal with customers all the time. I don't know. Let me go call somebody up real quick. I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure about this. Okay, because you can't be an expert in everything. Even in the sports business and everything else, there's always weird little things that pop up. I have no problem asking anybody. It boggles my mind when people are like, don't want to ask anybody. The worst thing in the world I hate with my employees, because I got 100 employees, and like the young ones, and I start talking to them, they go, I know. I go, bullshit. No, you don't know. So sit there and listen. Mark Twain once said, it's better to keep your mouth shut and let people think you're an idiot than open it and confirm it.
I love getting older because as much as that was laughed at when I was young, it really means something to me today, which is terrific. Yeah. Now, one of the other things about getting a little bit older and having experience is every once in a while we make the same mistake. I'll give you a generalization, one that in my world, I always say if it's too good to be true, it is. And still yet at 55 years old, I'll get caught into a deal and somehow my emotions take the better of me. I know I'm not supposed to do something. I've already made that mistake 10 times over in my life, and I go ahead and make the same mistake. You get a lot of deals like I do. Do you ever make the same mistake again and kick yourself and say, how could I have done that? I knew better since I've been 25. I know better than to do this.
Well, that always happens when I find an old car or motorcycle that I want for myself. An hour before, I ain't going to buy no more car. I don't even have no place for any cars or motorcycles. And then, suddenly my brain goes haywire. I'm like, I have to have this. And I end up paying too much. But that's for the personal stuff, all the weird collection things I got. Sometimes I pay too much, but in business, it's always business.
Just to finish up here, what's one of the things about being on TV that you didn't expect when you started, and whether it's good or bad, what was one of those things that you just had no idea about?
I mean, I never thought it would get this big. I went from having 100 people a day at my shop to, I think my record day at the shop a couple years ago was 7,000 people in one day. I averaged 2,000 people a day at my pawn shop. I never expected that I would sell, a couple $1 million a year in T-shirts.
T-shirts.
I just never thought that people would buy a T-shirt with my face on it.
I love that.
Because I might think I'm really pretty, but no one else in the world does.
I'm with you, my friend. That's amazing. I will tell you, with the media side, the one thing I learned, and you probably have the same personality trait, is, talk about sit around and wait. If somebody would have told me, doing TV and movies and things like that, how much you're actually just sitting around and waiting, it looks so exciting, the finished product, but I'd rather be selling behind the counter for you. And I'm thinking I got to do a guest segment and come in as a sports agent and have you critique my buying and selling capability from the expert and say, Dave, man, do not write the Art of Negotiation book again, because I got some lessons to learn from the incredible Rick Harrison. Rick, thank you so much for everything you do. Not only are you entertaining, but you really give some great life lessons. My favorite thing that I've guided myself, including the only reason I meditate is I met this guru from India who told me if she could teach me to raise my vibration, I could be more aware. And I'm like, I don't got time for that. She said, no, I can teach you to be more aware of when to buy or sell. I went ahead and did the course. So everybody go out there, watch Rick Harrison. He has some great lessons about how to buy and sell, how to create value, which is really what he does, which is why millions of people around the world love this guy. They'll even buy a T-shirt with his face on it. Incredible businessman, reality TV show, star of Pawn Stars himself, Rick Harrison. Thanks for joining me on Money Talks.
Thanks for watching today's episode of Money Talks, presented by Stack's Bowers Galleries. See you next time.